You know, it's being reported that the Saints are doing their due diligence. But, Skip, this makes no sense to me. You're not going to play. He's not going to play this year. I don't know. He can't help you this year. Like I said, maybe you signing him so you can have the opportunity to have dibs on his future services.
Yep.
But this year, we're talking about this year, it makes no sense because the league has made it abundantly clear in reading the memo that they sent that he's going on the commissioner's exempt list. Until this is resolved through the courts, he's not playing. So for them, and I understand Sean Payton, maybe he's giving the NFL the middle finger. You know, you took a year from me coaching with Bounty Gate when I said I had nothing. Yep. And the commissioner told me, he said, you should have known it's your football team. That call last year was hideous, outrageous. And we came up with this cockamamie, and they barely seldom overrule obvious PI, Skip. Yep. Some as blatant as what happened last year in New Orleans, and they still don't overrule them.
Yep.
Maybe that's his way of saying, but it doesn't. They're going to have, if the Saints were to sign Antonio Brown, they're going to have two breaking news stories running simultaneous. New Orleans Saints signs Antonio Brown. Breaking news, NFL puts Antonio Brown on commissioner's exempt list. That's what's going to happen, Skip. He's not going to play until this is resolved. And there has been no resolution to these allegations that's been brought before Antonio Brown. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he can get past this, and in 2020, he can get his life turned around, and he can get on someone's football team. But right now, as I'm looking at it, this makes no sense to me for the New Orleans Saints.
Nor does it make any sense to me, unless I'm missing something here.
Yeah.
Because Sean Payton is a shrewd operator. And again, he does have lots of axes to grind with the league. Jen knows him well, covered the Saints, lives in New Orleans. Is there any loophole we're missing here where he thinks he can somehow make him eligible just because they haven't ruled on it yet?
Skip, the Patriots would have already figured it out. You know, the Patriots had everybody on everything.
Okay, but remember, Antonio burned that bridge down when he took the shot at Robert Kraft.
Right.
Well, and he burned it down to start with by the group text back to the woman who had accused him. And it was so blatant and so egregious that even Robert Kraft finally said, that's enough. Right?
Yep.
And then he burned that bridge completely to the ground when he took the shot at Robert Kraft as he left.
Right.
As he takes lots of parting shots at lots of people.
At everybody.
So is it possible that Sean Payton found some way that he could make him eligible just for the playoffs, in that because the NFL has dragged its feet, they haven't ruled on this yet. They did bring Antonio, you remember, to New York. Mm-hmm. It was reported he was not very forthcoming about any of this, right?
And so guess what? They're not going to be very forthcoming in their judgment. They're like, you want to drag your feet, we drag our feet. Let's see who can last the longer. Because guess what? They're going to be the 101st year, the 102nd year, the 103rd year. Antonio Brown is not going to play in the NFL as long as the NFL is going to be in existence.
Okay. So now I'm just going to do the hypothetical of on the football field, in the locker room, if Antonio Brown is on this football team. I know it's a bizarre long shot that's going to happen right now.
Okay.
But let's just say, for sake of argument, that it does happen. You said that Michael Thomas, you told us earlier, has had a hand issue in practice. I don't know that that means he won't be able to play, but it might slow him down. So what if Antonio and Michael Thomas are on the same roster, in the same lineup, and wind up in the same huddle together? I never love having two number one receivers. It rarely works. You can go all the way back to Terry Bradshaw's Steelers. It did work there because you had Swan and Stallworth, two Hall of Fame.
Well, they wouldn't catch it with 35 passes a year. So
because they ran the football.
Exactly. It wasn't like one guy go catch 80, the other guy's go catch 25.
And we hadn't yet had diva receivers where they hadn't. There's no social media.
Right.
So Lynn Swann was really good, and he made circus catches in the Super Bowl and at USC.
Right.
But again, they didn't have diva egos that clashed behind closed doors. To me, Michael Thomas has earned the right to be the clear-cut number one receiver in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
Well, trust me, if Antonio somehow winds up in that locker room and in that huddle, he will want to be and demand to be the number one receiver.
And back then, Skip, you know, head coaches had all the control.
All the control.
All.
Okay.
You play for them or you play for no one. There's no way I'm demanding a trade. No, you weren't going anywhere.
Okay, so what happened to Baker Mayfield this year in Cleveland? He did have Jarvis, and it worked really beautifully last year because he had Jarvis and a bunch of no-names.
Right.
And all of a sudden, he had Jarvis and Odell, and they started to, I think, quietly clash about who gets the most targets, who gets the most balls. And Odell was never happy in Cleveland. He might not have ever been happy in Cleveland, period, end of story. But in this case, I don't think Michael Thomas will ever be happy with Antonio in the same lineup.
Because to your point, somebody's going to have to make a concession. Somebody's going to have to say, you know what, he's the guy. Because eventually it's going to end up somebody's going to have to go. That's what happened with T.O. and Jerry. Eventually T.O. became, hold on, this guy's the number one. Well, that's Jerry Rice over there. One of them's going to have to go. So they went with the younger T.O. Inevitably. And that's what you started to see, and that's what rubbed Antonio the wrong way, Skip.
It did.
Juju. All of a sudden, now Juju
Bingo.
ain't getting 45, 50 passes. Juju getting 100 too.
And Juju was voted by the players the MVP of the team.
Whoa. No. I might concede him getting 100 catches, but I need to be the MVP. Y'all know I'm more valuable than Juju.
Yep.
So something's going to have to give, Skip. And like I said, the only thing that I can see, Skip, first of all, there's not a rule because the NFL will come up with another rule that says he's not going to play. So you're not going to beat this Skip. The NFL, because you know Article 46, commissioner got broad-ranging powers.
The broadest.
So he was like, nah, he ain't playing because I said so. And Article 46 gave me that. So what you going to do? Unless this is all about 2020. I don't see a scenario where this is favorable for them in 2019. I hope Antonio gets this thing resolved. Antonio Brown gets the help that he needs, that he can go ahead and finish up the last couple of years, 2, 3, 4, however many years he's going to play in the NFL. But right now, as we sit here and we talk about this, I don't see a situation where this is like, oh, the Saints Saints going to sign Antonio. And that's like having a nice car, Skip, that you don't have the keys to. What the hell you going to do with it? Just look at it? Because he's just going to be walking in and out of your... I don't know, I don't even know if he can be around, if he's on the commissioner's exempt list, I don't even know if he can be around the team.
Cannot.
So what good is that?
The only advantage I see is that car that's sitting in the garage is free because if I understand it correctly, if you go on the exempt list, commissioner's exempt list now, the team does not have to pay you. It becomes the league's responsibility to pay you out of what would become the playoff pool of the NFL. So it would cost the Saints nothing to sign him as a futures choice, you know, like.
But what it'll be, Skip, he would be getting, all he would get was a part of the playoff pool that the Saints players would be getting. It's not, so all the Saints players are going to be getting the same thing. Okay, you win. Say it's like $40,000 for, I don't know if they get the first, if they're a wild card, maybe it's $35,000, whoever. So that's what he'd be getting. It's not like he's going to be getting, because it's not like the teams play the playoff salaries anyway. That comes from the NFL and from the playoff pool that you were talking about. So no harm, no foul there. They got no problem with that. He's a member of a roster, so he gets a percentage, a part of the playoff money. Okay, but what good? How does that help the Saints?
You can buy low right now because you can get him because he's going to have to come with helmet in hand saying, "Oh, what? I'll take the minimum." Right? He just wants back in the league.
Well, here's the thing, Skip. Now, because it's in the playoff, he can't. All he would get would be the playoff money. Because you don't get your salary once the playoffs start. The playoffs is prorated over 17 weeks, where the 17 weeks are up. So all he would get was the playoff money. So you be buying extremely, extremely low because you're basically going to, okay, we're going to sign you to a 2-year deal basically, and it's going to be minimum, but we have your rights for 2020. That's all you're getting, Skip.
Okay, so now I come down to how will the NFL Players Association respond to this? Because effectively, Antonio has been suspended for a whole year, just effectively. Like he's missed this whole season, right? So when they do rule on him, obviously we don't have enough show left to go through all the misbehavior of Antonio Brown. That's not to mention 2 sexual assault allegations that are still hanging over him. So how does the league rule on just conduct unbecoming besides the sexual assault? Well, the suspension should be, to me, we talked about this before, he should be gone for a year. Well, now, effectively, he has been gone for a year. So will the NFLPA then take a stand and say, well, you got to reinstate him for next year because he effectively just served a whole year's suspension?
But he wasn't on the roster. You got to be on the roster to be able to serve a suspension. Who is he with? And the thing was, Skip, remember, he said he wanted to release. When a part of the arbitration thing that he said the Raiders released him without cause, Mark Davis showed him the text. He sent me a text, said, release me.
Yeah, he did. Okay.
Okay, so what?
So I don't think anybody has any quibble with the fact he's still extremely talented. And when we saw him just in practice in Oakland on Hard Knocks, sensational. When I saw him